I would like to share with you 3 questions I use to essentially avoid buying any music software. Yes, G.A.S is a real thing. Gear Acquisition Syndrome. At least for some people, I seem to live in a constant state under its terrible magical spell. But I haven't bought anything for a long time. I think Black Friday was the last time I splashed out. So if you suffer from G.A.S, or even if you are just occasionally tempted to buy a piece of software which you may or may not need, maybe this will help. I also have a bonus tip which will come before the questions. Now, before we dive into them, let's just get semi-psychological for a moment. G.A.S is not about needing something, it's about wanting something. And this comes from an emotional desire to acquire something, the next new thing, a nice, bright, shiny object which looks exciting. There is a saying in marketing and advertising, sell the sizzle, not the sausage, which means appeal to the buyer's emotions, not their intellect. So when you get G.A.S, it's normally something that you want but don't necessarily need. However, overcoming that want-need hurdle is not the easiest thing to do. Maybe these questions will help. Now, I tend to live with G.A.S because I like to know what's going on in this synthesizer world, so I subscribe to manufacturers and developers newsletters, and I also subscribe to those websites who offer cut price deals on plugins. Audio plugin deals is one. Plugin Boutique is another. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos, you may recall that I have a degenerative eye condition. I really struggle to read text on screen, so I use a screen reader. Plugin Boutique sends their newsletters out in a graphic format, which the screen reader can't read, so I unsubscribed. So the bonus tip is simply this: if you want to reduce the amount of temptation put in front of you, unsubscribe from the newsletters. Now, I do still subscribe to Audio Plugin Deals. They send me 3 emails a day. I just tend to look at the headline, and if it's not something of interest, then I delete the email. But I do like to know what's going on in the software world, so let's start with question number 1. Now, I'm particularly talking about soft synths. You can apply some of these questions to software effects because I'm also tempted by them. Hardware G.A.S, I think, has more consideration, so this is primarily about software. So question 1 is, of course, price. How much am I prepared to spend? Well, how long, as they say, is a piece of string? And this also relates to how much I think a piece of software is worth. Now, that is a very difficult question to answer, but I did try to answer it to some degree in another video, card up there, link in description. And this essentially was about how much or how little software developers were prepared to sell their own instruments for. So I have a figure in mind, and if something costs this price or less, I will investigate further. And that figure is $29. Now, this is going to vary from person to person. You need to find your own price level. Now, when I think about this quite deeply, and this will give you an insight into the weird workings of my brain, it's probably the amount I think a piece of software is worth. Now, there is not, of course, a blanket price for all pieces of software, so that figure is going to vary depending on the software itself. But it is a good ballpark figure for me to decide whether to investigate this piece of software further or not. Now, that's not to say if anything costs more than $29, I wouldn't look at it. But I do sort of have a cut-off point somewhere around $69. If it's more than that, then generally I just won't look at it. Now, I know that might seem ridiculous, it might seem to be a bit of an arbitrary figure, but it is my figure, and you need to come up with your own figure. You might decide that $19 is your cut-off point, or $59. It's up to you and your sense of value for the piece of software that you're looking at. Okay, let's say the piece of software is within our price range, is really interesting. Let's move on to question 2. And this is where we get psychological about it, because at this point I really do have to ask myself, is this something which I actually need? Not want, but need. And at this point, yes, we have to try to remove the emotion from the process. Now, this is possibly easier for me than it may be for some other people. I have, for better or worse, a ridiculous number of software synths. They've been acquired over the years. I have an even more ridiculous number of plug-in effects and audio processors. It's more ridiculous because I don't use them half as much or even a tenth of as much as I use the soft synths. I really don't know how I came to get such a collection, but never mind. So what I say to myself, I don't actually talk to myself, but it's just a mental process. You understand. Have I got anything which sounds or which can do something remotely like this piece of software? And if I'm humming and hawing and sitting on the fence, I say, learn what your existing software can do before you buy anything else. And the sad fact of the matter is, as I say, I have a ridiculous number of soft synths, and a lot of them I have really not explored in any detail at all. So who knows what they can do? At least that's what I tell myself. Explore what you've got. And I think that is a really good rule of thumb to follow. It's always nice and exciting to get something new, but that excitement can be short-lived if you discover that you've got 2 or 3 other pieces of software which will do pretty much exactly the same thing. Now, even if you only have a small number of soft synths, maybe a dozen, maybe 2 dozen, there are a lot of free ones out there if you want to build up your collection. But these can take quite a while to get to know. Even running through the presets can take several weeks, if not months. So you probably have plenty to explore before you start searching for new gear. So let's say this piece of software gets past these first 2 questions. The third question is this: is it NKS compatible? Now, NKS stands for Native Control Systems. It was developed by Native Instruments, and if a soft synth is NKS compatible, it shows up in Komplete Kontrol. Now, if you don't use Komplete Kontrol or just never wanted to buy in the Native Instruments ecosystem, let me please allay your fears. You can get Komplete Kontrol for nothing, along with some pretty interesting synths. I shall leave a link to that in the description. Now, there are several really interesting and helpful and useful and time-saving things that Komplete Kontrol can do. I made another video about that. Card up there, link in description. I think it's 7 reasons why I love Komplete Kontrol. There are probably another couple of dozen reasons why I'd like it, but I just picked 7 because it seemed like a good number. But the main thing it does, which saves me so much time and is so convenient, it essentially acts as a shell program to all your NKS compatible synthesizers. So all the synths are in one place. Not only that, all the presets are in one place, and you can use the tags to find particular presets from all your synths. If you don't use Komplete Kontrol, you have to load each synth individually, sort through the presets, see if there's anything suitable or if you can create a suitable sound with that synth. If there is, fine. If not, you have to move on to the next. And if you have 2 dozen or even a dozen synthesizers, this is going to take a long time. It is just so easy, convenient, and saves so much time sorting through presets with Komplete Kontrol. Now, unfortunately, Native Instruments is not sponsoring this video, but I'm telling you about Komplete Kontrol because it saves me so much time and is so convenient. So that's the 3 questions. Quite often, if a soft synth or sample library gets past the first 2 questions, if it is an older piece of software, it will often not get past the 3rd one. If it does, well, then I have to make a decision whether to buy it or not. But as I say, I haven't bought anything since Black Friday, so these 3 questions and the process seems to work fairly well for me at least. So, do you have any strategies for avoiding gas? I need all help I can get, so help me out here and let me know. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, you might like to consider subscribing to the channel, ringing the bell. Thank you. So YouTube will tell you when I post new videos, and clicking the big thumb is always a big help as well. As always, thank you so much for spending time with me watching my videos. And if you did like this video, I think you might enjoy these videos as well. Check them out. And we'll see you again in the next one.